شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. This is study number 26 of the Ramadan Daily Quran Studies for the year 2021, presented by the Ahmadi Anjuman Ishaat Islam Lahore, UK. And I am Zahid Aziz, the compiler of these studies. The topic of this study is manners, good manners to be observed towards the Holy Prophet, good manners by Muslims. When large numbers of people started joining Islam towards the end of the life of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, it became necessary to teach them rules and manners of how to behave towards the Holy Prophet, so that his work of teaching them was honored, his guidance was followed, his privacy was respected, and his time was not wasted by people. And so Muslims were instructed in the Holy Quran in this way. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تقدموا بين يدي الله ورسوله واتقوا الله إن الله سميع عليم يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا ترفعوا أصواتكم فوق صوت النبي ولا تجهروا له بالقول كجهر بعضكم لبعض أن تحبط أعمالكم وأنتم لا تشعرون إن الذين يغضون أصواتهم عند رسول الله أولئك الذين امتحن الله قلوبهم للتقوى لهم مغفرة وأجر عظيم صدق الله العظيم. These three verses translate as follows. O you who believe, do not be forward in the presence of Allah and His Messenger, and keep your duty to Allah. Surely Allah is hearing, knowing. I'll explain this and then I'll translate the remaining parts and explain them as I read the translation. So in this first verse, these are verses 1 to 3 of chapter 49, which I read, and I've just translated the first verse. Do not be forward in the presence of Allah and His Messenger. The presence of Allah and His Messenger means the gathering where the commandments of Allah are being taught by the Holy Prophet. That is the presence of Allah and His Messenger. And do not be forward means do not get ahead of them. And getting ahead of them means, for example, that after you start listening, after you are listening to the start of what is being said to you, only after listening to the start, you think you know what is coming next. So you stop paying attention. So that is getting ahead, being forward. Or that you allow your own ideas and interpretations to have preference and precedence over the teaching which is being given to you. So that is how you are forward. You are not really learning. Now, the next verse says, O you who believe, do not raise your voices above the Prophet's voice, nor speak loudly to him as you speak loudly to one another, in case your deeds become fruitless while you do not perceive. And it goes on to say that the third verse, surely those who lower their voices before Allah's Messenger They are they whose hearts Allah has proved to be dutiful, and for them is forgiveness and a great reward. Now, in this second verse, the command, do not raise your voices above the Prophet's voice, nor speak loudly to him as you speak loudly to one another. This is again a matter of good manners in front of your guide and teacher. What is not meant here is the natural loudness of someone's voice. There was a companion of the Holy Prophet, ﷺ, Sabit ibn Qas, who by nature had a loud voice. So when he heard this revelation that do not raise your voices above the Prophet's voice, he went and sat inside his house crying and dejected, because he thought this revelation was directed at him as he had a loud voice. So when the Holy Prophet missed him for a while and saw that he wasn't present, he asked about him, where he was, and someone went to his house and found him in this depressed state, and he came back and told the Holy Prophet about his condition. So the Holy Prophet sent a message to that companion to say, you are not destined for hell, you are destined for paradise. That your voice is not meant in this verse. What is meant is that one must not be argumentative and try to talk down the Holy Prophet as if he were an ordinary man. And therefore, what is not meant here by not raising your voice is, it is not meant that if your voice happens to be naturally loud, that is forbidden. But it's the manner of the voice being loud, as if you are talking down the Holy Prophet and being argumentative. Now, after these first three verses of chapter 49, the next two verses I will read out in translation. Those who call out to you, that is to say the Holy Prophet, from behind the private apartments, most of them have no sense. And if they had patience till you came out to them, it would be better for them, and Allah is forgiving, merciful. So these are verses 4 and 5 of chapter 49. Now there were some people who had no manners, they didn't actually know any better, and they used to shout questions at the Holy Prophet from outside his house. And they were expecting that he would hear their questions while sitting inside his house, and he would come out, he would leave everything and come out to answer them. So this teaches them these good manners, that is not the way in which you ask questions, by shouting from outside his house. And these rules and manners, and as it says here, you should have patience till he comes out to you, ready to meet people and answer their questions, and then ask your question. And these rules and manners taught in these 5 verses are not only historical, to be observed only towards the Holy Prophet by his companions, but they are a permanent guidance on how people should conduct themselves before their teachers and their leaders. And then in another chapter of the Holy Quran, the same kind of subject is covered. And this is chapter 24. And I will read out, it's 2 verses, but they're a little on the long side. And they are as follows. Only those are believers who believe in Allah and His Messenger, and when they are with Him on an important matter, they do not go away until they have asked permission from Him. And surely they who ask permission from you, they are the ones who believe in Allah and His Messenger. So when they ask permission from you, O Prophet, for some affair of theirs, give permission to whom you will from among them, and ask forgiveness for them from Allah. Surely Allah is forgiving, merciful. And the next verse says, addressing Muslims, do not make the messengers calling among you as your calling of one another. Allah indeed knows those who steal away from among you, concealing themselves. In other words, they quietly leave. So those who go against His order should be aware that a trial may afflict them because of their deeds, and some punishment might befall them. The punishment here is not anything imposed by the Holy Prophet, but that they may not have listened to the instructions and therefore do something which is damaging to them. So this is verses 62 and 63 in chapter 24. And they first say that no one should leave without asking the Holy Prophet's permission when people are gathered together for some important matter requiring their presence. So the Holy Prophet here has gathered his followers, and they are discussing some important matter as to what to do about it, or they are learning something, let's say. And no one should leave that assembly without asking the Holy Prophet's permission. And then it is said, do not make the messengers calling among you. In other words, when the messenger calls you to something, you don't treat it as the way in which you call each other. And this means that the Holy Prophet's call to believers should be respected by them, and it should not be treated as the call of one ordinary person to another. And what is the reason for this? This is because the Holy Prophet's call to his followers relates to some important matter affecting the welfare of the whole community, while the mutual calling between themselves of people relates to their private affairs. And what all this amounts to is that this shows how vitally important it is to take seriously those meetings, those community meetings, national meetings, which are held to discuss national or community affairs, meetings at which decisions have to be made affecting everyone. So it is important to take those meetings seriously, to give up your time for those meetings, and to participate in those meetings with full attention. And as that verse said, not try to quietly slip away without asking permission. And when we are asked to attend such a gathering, particularly in a religious community, but also otherwise as well, asked to attend a gathering where matters of importance are going to be discussed affecting the whole community or group of the community, etc., or the nation, we should give that call a higher priority than the call to attend some private function like a party or a wedding or something of that kind. So that is the end of this study. Barakallahu lana wa lakum fil Qur'anil Azim wa nafa'na wa iyyakum bil ayati wa zikril hakim innahu ta'ala jiwadun karimun malikun barurur rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.